Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Rachel from Evelyn and Peter, and today I have a new crochet cardigan to share with you guys. Super excited for this one. Let me stand up so you can get a better look. So it's actually pretty beginner friendly. You'll be using double crochet stitches throughout the main body of the cardigan. We'll just place them slightly different to create these really pretty crosses, the little dashes that you see along the front. It has pockets, which are really easy to make. You can also skip them if you don't want the pockets, but they are in this cardigan as well. And then very easy to customize the length if you want it longer or shorter. You can add or remove rows within this pattern as well. So I'll explain all of that in the video tutorial for you guys. This is free on my blog, so I always recommend following along with the free written pattern. It's on enpcrochet.com. I will link to that in the description for you guys. And it includes all of the sizes that I have available. So if you're making a different size, you'll obviously have different stitch and row count. So that is in the free pattern. Make sure you are have that pulled up as you work the video tutorial. It's also available as a Lion Brand kit. So the kit comes with all the yarn you need to make your cardigan, plus it comes with a free copy of my printable PDF digital download, and then you can customize your yarn color. This is Heartland yarn, so they have lots of pretty yarn color options. Make sure you're subscribed to my newsletter because I will send out, if they're having good sales, like a 35% off sale, I'll send out a newsletter letting you guys know when you can grab my kits at a really good price. And then plus with the free copies of the patterns that are included, it's usually a really good deal. You can just do that on my blog. I know I never spam or send out tons of emails. I only send out emails letting you guys know when I have a new pattern available or a new tutorial, or when I'm having any sort of sale on my kits or in my shops. So make sure you do that. And then this is also available in my Etsy shop and Ravelry shop as well, and I will link to everything in the description. I know a lot of you guys don't like doing gauge swatches, but I always encourage everyone to do a gauge swatch, and actually you don't have any excuse if you're making this with pockets, because the gauge swatch is actually the pocket panel. So if you're going to make a swatch, you can jump ahead in the video and go to the section where we're making the pocket panel, and then you can measure your 4 by 4 inches within that pocket panel, and then instead of pulling it out, you can just put it towards your cardigan, and we'll sew it in later when we are closing up our pockets. So I think that is everything you guys need to know for this design. Pretty straightforward. I hope you guys like it. Thank you guys so much for watching and for being here with me in 2024. Please subscribe so I can give you guys more free content, and I will see you guys in the next video.
So for this pattern, you're going to need worsted weight yarn. I'm using Lion Brand's Heartland. This is in the color White Sands. I have all the exact yardage for all of the sizes of this cardigan provided free on my blog, so you can go check that out and see how much yarn exactly that you will need. And then you're also going to need a 5mm crochet hook, a needle to weave in your ends, a pair of scissors, and then a couple of stitch markers as well. So all of the panels start off exactly the same with the ribbing, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's begin with the slip knot. Just wrap your yarn around your fingers and then pull that loop through and on to your hook. And now we're going to be doing some chains. So yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook a total of 11 times for 11 chains. The back panel, both front panels and the sleeves all start off with 11 chains for the ribbing. So go ahead and do that. And then now in the second chain from the hook, you're going to work a single crochet. I like to work it into the back bump. You can do wherever you prefer. So I'm going to rotate, put it in the back bump, insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and then just do this in each chain all the way across. Again, insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So at the end of this row, we're going to have a total of 10 single crochet, and that will be the same for all of the panels. We're all going to be starting with 10 single crochet for the ribbing on all of the panels that we make for this cardigan. Okay, and then when you get to the end of the row, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. And for row 2, this is what we will be repeating throughout the rest of the ribbing. So in that very first stitch, work a single crochet. And then in the next 8 stitches, you're going to work a single crochet in the back loop only. So the loop that's furthest away from you is the back loop. You're just going to work a single crochet into that back loop like you would a normal single crochet. You're just under 1 loop instead of 2 loops. So 1 regular single crochet in the first stitch, 8 single crochet in the back loop only all the way across, and then when you get to the last stitch remaining, you're going to finish with a regular single crochet, working it under both the front and the back loop to complete the row. So we still have a total of 10 single crochet here, just starting with a single crochet in the beginning and then the back loops, and then ending with the regular single crochet. Chain 1, turn your work, and then you're just going to repeat that row as many times as it calls for your size that you're making. So start off the same way, 1 single crochet and then single crochet back loop only all the way till the end, then 1 regular single crochet. So go ahead and make sure you're following the written pattern and see how many ribbing rows you need for your size. This is the back panel, and I am going to be working 83 ribbing rows to complete it. So now that I have a total of 83 rows for my size for the back panel, we're going to be rotating our work. Don't turn your work after the last row made, and we're going to be working our stitches into the ends of the ribbing rows. So chain 2, and in that very first stitch, the end of the row that we just made, work a double crochet. And then into the end of the following row, you're going to do the same thing. Work a double crochet stitch into it. And you're going to continue doing this all the way down, working 1 double crochet into the end of each of the rows. And obviously you're not working it into the top of a stitch, so just put your hook wherever you feel most comfortable. Just make sure that you're having 1 stitch per row that you have in your ribbing. So go ahead and work your way across. Okay, so I'm at the end of the row and I have a total of 83 double crochet stitches. And to complete the row, I'm just going to chain 2 and turn my work to start the next one. And then for row 2 here, we're just going to work 1 double crochet into each of the stitches from the row below. So yarn over, insert your hook into that very first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And just repeat that all the way across, and your stitch count will be staying the same. So just regular double crochets all the way to the end. Once you get to the end of the row, you can go ahead and chain 2 and turn your work. And now we will be beginning row 3, and this is going to be the row where we do the double crosses spike stitch, which creates that really fun looking texture and dash along the outside of your work. So in that very first stitch, just work a double crochet like normal. And then over the next 3 stitches, we're going to be doing the double crosses spike. So you have 3 stitches here. You're going to skip over 2, and then in that 3rd stitch, you're going to be working your hook into the base of that stitch. So not into the top of it, but into the base of it, which is the same spot that that stitch worked into row 1. So you're basically working into the top of the stitch of row 1, which is the base of the stitch of row 2. So yarn over, insert your hook into the base of the stitch, skipping over those 2 stitches in between, yarn over, pull up a loop. You want to make sure you pull your loop up high to the height that you're working at. Yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops only, and then yarn over, pull through the final 2 loops. So basically you're doing a double crochet stitch, but you're doing it into the base of that stitch instead of into the top of it. Now the next stitch that we make is going to be into the top of the second skip stitch, which is the center stitch of those 3. So now you're working into the top of it and not the base of it. So the first one was into the base, now this one is into the top. I like to work it to the left of the post of that double crochet we just made. You could make it to the right of it and it wouldn't mess or alter the pattern in any way, but I think it looked cleaner and nicer moving that stitch over and working it into the left. So I'm just going to yarn over, insert my hook into the top of that stitch, work a double crochet like normal, and now we're going to go back to that very first stitch that we skipped, yarn over and insert your hook into the base of that first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, make sure you bring that yarn up to height, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 2. So another double crochet working into the base of that first one. So now we have created 3 double crochet stitches, 2 of them being into the base. For the next stitch, you want to make sure that you're not working it into the top of the one that we already have a stitch in the base of. You can see it's kind of confusing. You'll reflex, you'll want to go directly into it. You want to make sure you don't, because your stitch is already worked into the base of that one. So go over to the next 3 and then just work your stitch into the top of that next stitch, working a double crochet like normal, and you're going to do it into the next 3 stitches. So 3 stitches into the top, just double crochet like normal. And then we're going to repeat that across the row. We're going to repeat the 3 stitches that create the double crosses spike, and then 3 stitches just regular double crochet. So for our next set here, you're going to see the next 3 double crochet stitches, skip over 2 of them, and into that 3rd one, work your double crochet into the base of it. Make sure you pull that yarn up, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then again, that second one, you're working it into the top of that center double crochet, the one right before it, and just a double crochet like normal. And then that very first stitch that we skipped over, go back and work a double crochet into the base of that one as well. So we just repeated the double crosses part, and then now we're going to go into the 3 double crochet. Again, make sure you don't work another double crochet into the top of the one that already has a base. You want to go to the one following it and just work 3 double crochet in those 3 stitches. And you're just going to continue repeating that all the way across the row, alternating with the double crosses spike and then the 3 double crochet. So just repeat that all the way across, and I will show you how to finish off this row once you get towards the end. Okay, so we're coming up on the end here. I still have 4 stitches left. I'm going to work my very last set of the double crosses spike stitch. So in that second to last stitch, work a double crochet in the base, and then a double crochet into that center one, and then a double crochet into the base of that first skipped one. And then we have 1 stitch remaining, and we're just going to finish off with a double crochet. So the end of the row mirrors the beginning of the row. Each side has 1 double crochet on the end. So make sure you have that correct. If you accidentally worked an extra into one that already had a stitch in the base, your stitch count will be off, so you can easily go back and see where you went wrong and pull it out and redo it. So that completes row 3. You can turn your work and chain 2, and then for this row you're just going to be working 1 double crochet into the top of each stitch all the way across the row. So your stitch count isn't going to change at all. In this row you just work all the way across, no crosses, stitches here, just regular double crochets into the top. Okay, so now we are at the end of row 4, beginning row 5. You can chain 2 and turn your work. And row 5 is going to be similar to row 3 with the double crosses, but we're just going to be placing them in a different spot. So they're going to be kind of centered in between the double crosses from that other row. So go ahead and work a double crochet in the first stitch. And then now we're going to be working 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches as well. So we'll have a total of 4 double crochet stitches here. And then we're going to go into working the double crosses spike stitch. So you count out the next 3 stitches. They should be centered in between the double crosses from row 3. And then you're just going to be doing the exact same thing. Work a double crochet into the base of that 3rd one, and then a double crochet into the top of the 2nd one, and then a double crochet into the base of the 1st one. And then the stitch repeat is exactly the same as it was in the other row. You do 3 double crochet, making sure you don't work it into the top of the one that already has a stitch in the base. And then you just repeat across row, working the double crosses spike over the next 3 stitches, and then 3 double crochet stitches right after that. So just repeat all the way to the end of the row, and I'll show you how to finish off this row as well. Okay, so at the end of the row here, we have 4 stitches remaining, and we're just going to be working 1 double crochet into the top of each of those 4 stitches to finish off the row. So this completes row 5. And now for the remainder of your back panel, you're just going to be repeating rows 2 through 5 for as many times as it calls for your size. Some of the sizes might end on a double crochet row 2 repeat, or some might end on a double crochet row 4 repeat. So just make sure you're checking your row counts to see how many you need. And you can easily adjust your length of your cardigan as well by adding or removing the rows and multiples of 2. You just want to make sure you're ending on a double crochet row. So if you want a longer cardigan, you can add in more, or shorter, you can remove some rows. So go ahead and repeat. I'm going to have a total of 40 rows for the back panel for my size. I'm making the size small medium. And this is what it looks like once it's finished. And then after you have the back panel complete, you're going to need to make 2 front panels as well, and they start off exactly the same as the back panel. They are just smaller, so your stitch count will be the same for the ribbing, but your row count will be different. So if you need to, you can go back and re-watch the beginning of the video where I showed you how to do the ribbing. It's going to be exactly the same. And then for my size, I'm only going to have a total of 35 rows for the ribbing on the front panel instead of 83 like the back panel. So other than that, it's all the same. And then you will stop sooner than what we did on the back panel because we want to add in the pockets. So here's my front panel, here's my ribbing, and then here's rows 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm just going to repeat rows 2 through 5 until I have a total of 12 rows, and then we're going to add in the pocket hole. So go ahead and work up your front panel until the written pattern is showing you to work the pocket holes, which will be on row 13, and then come back and I'll show you how to create those. So this is what it's going to look like. If you don't want the pockets, you can just skip those instructions and work your row across in row 13 like normal. So that is an option if you don't want the pockets. But if you do, work up a total of 12 rows, and then I will add in the pockets with you. Okay, so now we are ready to add the pockets on the front panels. You should have rows up to row 12 completed, and now we're going to be on row 13. This is where we add the little pocket opening. So you're going to chain 2 and then work a double crochet into the first 4 stitches like you normally would on this row repeat here. And then we're going to be making 1 set of the double crosses. So work a double crochet into the base of that 3rd one, a double crochet into the top of the center one, and then a double crochet into the base of the first skipped one. And now instead of continuing across, we are going to be chaining and making a hole. So now I'm going to chain 21, so just yarn over and pull through a total of 21 times. And then we're going to be skipping over 21 stitches. So that's 1 chain for each stitch that we're skipping over. And then we're going to need to skip over 2 more stitches so that we can join in with our first double crochet in the base of the stitch right after the 2 extra skip stitches like normal, so that we can go right back into our stitch repeat. So I've skipped over 21 double crochet stitches, and then I'm going to count 2 more to skip over, and then in that 3rd one at the base I'm going to put my hook and do the double crochet. So yarn over, insert my hook into the base of that 3rd one, and then complete my double crochet stitch. So you'll have 4 stitches remaining in that row after that one. So it's going to tug over slightly, but then we're going to finish our double crosses. So in the previous one right before it, you're going to work your double crochet into the top of it, and then your final double crochet into the base of the one right before that one. So now when all is said and done, you have 21 double crochet stitches that you skipped over, plus you'll have the tops of the 2 on the edge as well from the double cross stitch. So you have 4 stitches remaining, and just finish with 1 double crochet into each of them to complete the row. Again, this is just for one size, the size that I'm making. So if you're making a different size, you might have a different amount of stitches remaining or pocket size. So just make sure you're watching that written pattern as you go in case your stitch count is slightly different. So at the end of that row, just go ahead and chain 2 and turn your work. And then for row 14, we're just going to go right back into repeating rows 2 through 5. For the remainder of the front panel. So I'm going to work my double crochet stitches all the way across this row. When you get to the chains, you're going to treat the chains just as you would like it's a normal stitch. So you're going to work your double crochets into those chains there. So I'll show you here. When you get to it, you're just going to make sure you put your hook into the actual chain. Might be a little hard to wiggle it in there, but just work your stitch in and then work your way across. So you don't want to work your stitch around the chain, you want to actually put it into that chain stitch so that it keeps everything in place. So just go ahead and work your way across the row. So now for row 15, we're going to be doing a row 3 repeat. So just as you normally would, chain 2, turn your work, work 1 double crochet in the first stitch, and then work your double crosses. And then I just wanted to show you guys really quick how to work your stitches when you get to the pocket hole area as well, just to make sure you guys know exactly where to put your hook. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so now we are at the section where we need to work our hook into the base. So you can see I'm just going to work my hook into the same chain that I did in the previous row. So it's going to feel a little bit weird just because you're not doing it into an actual stitch since the pocket hole is there. But just in the same spot that you worked your double crochet from the row below, that's where you're going to be working your current double crochets. So you can see I just put it into the chain, and then I work into the top of the stitch like normal, and then go back over and putting my hook into the chain of that previous one as well. So that's what you're going to do for this row, and then once you get past that, it's going to be the exact same as it has been throughout the previous part of this panel and the back panel. Just continue repeating rows 2 through 5 until you have the same amount of rows that you do on the back panel. So for me, that's a total of 40 rows, but depending on your size, that might be different. So just check that. And then once you have this one complete, you're going to need to go back and rework it all over again and make a second one. So you can finish off this one and then go make a matching second one. When you fasten off the tails on these front panels, you'll want to leave a length long enough to sew the last row of the front panel to the back panel at the shoulder seam. So just make sure you leave one long enough to do that when we are ready to assemble the cardigan. So now that you have the back and the front panels complete, you need to make the sleeve panels. So you can see here I have a row of 10 single crochet. It begins just like it does on the other panels. So if you need to rewatch, you can go back and do that. And then you're just going to be doing the same exact thing, 1 single crochet in the back loop only across, and then 1 single crochet in the final stitch, and then just repeat that row 2 as many times as it calls for your size. So for my size, I'm going to be making a total of 24 ribbing rows for the sleeve. So go ahead and do that, and then I will meet you back here to show you how to work row 1 of these sleeves. They're just slightly different than the back and the front panels. Okay, so now we are on row 1 of the sleeve. So here is our cuff complete, and we're going to be continuing just as we did in the other panels, but row 1 here is going to be slightly different. So chain 2, and then in that end of that very first row, you're going to work a double crochet like you have been, but then you're also going to work a second one into that very same stitch. So we're going to be doing some increasing here. Then in the end of the next row, you're going to work a double crochet into it, and then a second double crochet into the very same stitch. So we're just increasing so that we can make the cute little balloon sleeves of the cardigan and widen it out. So into the end of each row across the ribbing, you're going to work 2 double crochet stitches into each of them. The last ribbing row will only have 1 double crochet. So 2 double crochet all the way across, and then when you get to the end here, you're going to finish with 1 double crochet stitch into it. Make sure you're paying attention to your size though, in case it's slightly different. So here I am finishing up with 1 final double crochet, and that increases our stitch count to a total of 47 double crochet stitches for this row. So once you have row 1 complete, your sleeve is going to look a little crazy and wavy and wonky, and it's supposed to look like that, so don't worry, and it'll continue to expand out as you work your rows up, and then it'll flatten out like it's supposed to. So after you have that row 1, you're just going to go directly back into our regular row and stitch repeat. It's going to be exactly the same now as the back panel. Just work rows 2 through 5 over and over and over until you have the correct amount of rows for your size. So the larger sizes will have probably a couple of rows shorter than the smaller, because this is a drop shoulder cardigan. So the wider your back panel and front panels are, the lower it sits down on your arm, so you might have shorter sleeves. But if you need to adjust these, it's super easy to do. You can just add a couple of rows each time until you reach the length that you want, and then fasten off with the tail long enough to sew to your cardigan. So now we just have to make 2 small pocket panels. If you're using this for your gauge swatch, then you might be jumping ahead in the video to this point to do it. So you're just going to take your yarn, create a slip knot, insert your hook and pull through. And for the pocket panel, all we're doing is making a square of double crochet stitches. So it's super simple. So we're going to be starting off with 23 double crochet stitches. So you can either do a starting chain or you can do a foundation double crochet stitch if you know how to do that. I do have a video of that on my channel. I actually went back and pulled this out after, and I did do a foundation double crochet just because I didn't want the chains to be too tight and mess with my gauge. So if you are chaining, you'll want to make sure you do them loose enough so that it's not too tight at the bottom and mess with your stitches. You can either do 23 foundation double crochet, or you can chain 25 like I did here, and then work a double crochet into the 3rd stitch from the hook. So just yarn over, insert your hook into the 3rd chain from the hook. I like to work it into the back bump, but you can put it however you prefer. So I'm just going to rotate, insert my hook into the back bump, and work a double crochet like normal. And then just work 1 double crochet into each of the remaining chains all the way across for a total of 23 double crochet stitches. So go ahead and work your stitches across the row, and I will show you how to start the 2nd row. So once we get to the end here, you're just going to chain 2 and turn your work, and then work 1 double crochet into the top of each stitch all the way across. And then you're going to want to repeat row 2 until you have a total of 13 rows. So we're just going to have 13 rows of 23 double crochet stitches for the pocket panels. So once you have all of the pieces made, we need to seam it together. So I have my back panel right side facing up, and then my front panels right side facing down. And you can really do this however way that you want. You can choose which side you want to be the right or the wrong side. Within the pattern, I have it officially written as row 1 facing you is the right side of your panel. But if you prefer the other side, then that's totally fine too. Or if you want to flip one front panel the other way, then you can do that. So the rows go in like this, the little stripes, but your double crochet rows will be the opposite, since one is right side and one is wrong side. But honestly, I don't think it looks bad either way, so you can choose which way you want to do it. here I am with the right sides facing and row 1 being the right side. And now I'm just going to seam up at the shoulders here, and you can use whichever method you prefer to do this. If you want to use your hook and slip stitch across, you can do that, and you'll just be using your tail that you left on the front panel, or you can use a needle and you can sew it across as well using your preferred stitch. Here I am showing you how to slip stitch across. So you just want to make sure that your stitches are lined up and that you're not skipping any of the stitches or working 2 slip stitches into the same one. You just want to make sure it's nice and even as you go so that you don't bunch any of the stitches up. So just line it up, and then you can slip stitch across working your hook through both the panels, or again you can use your needle. Whichever way you prefer will work for this cardigan. Once you have this side complete, you need to do the same thing with the other front panel as well. So once both front panels are joined in, you can see there's my front panel seam, and then you have to do the same thing with the sleeve. So we have the shoulder seam there, and you want to line your sleeve up so that the center stitch of the sleeve is directly next to the shoulder seam that we just made. So it's helpful to use stitch markers and to keep your sleeve in place. You'll want to make sure that when you work it across that you have the same amount of rows on the front panel as you do on the back panel where you join in. So you could count your rows down and just make sure you're starting and ending on the same row of both the panels, and then just using the same method, join your sleeve to the back and front panel, and then you'll have to do the same thing on the other side as well. So just sew across and then fasten off and sew the other sleeve, and then once it's joined on, you're just going to fold everything together. So now our front panels and back panel are together, and we've folded our sleeve in half, and now we're going to be seaming with an L shape to finish sewing the sleeve and the side of the cardigan together. So you could join in at the bottom hem if you wanted to, and sew up along the side to the underarm and then down the length of the sleeve to the cuff. If you have a long enough tail here from where you joined your sleeve on, you could just keep going and either sew the remainder of the sleeve down to the cuff, or you could sew down the remainder of the side here to the end of your cardigan. But if your tail's not long enough, that's no problem. You can just take a new piece, join in at the cuff, sew across to the underarm, and then keep going and sew down to the bottom of the ribbing, and then repeat that same thing on the other side. So now we have to sew in our pocket panels, and we're just going to place the squares that we made for the pockets on the inside of our cardigan, and then we're going to use the tail of the yarn from the panel and sew it onto the inside of the cardigan here. So make sure you're doing it on the inside so that the pocket panel is on the correct side, and then we're going to use the long tail and sew it together. So I have row 1 lined up with row 1 of the front panel, and then the final row will line up with the row just above the pocket hole opening, and we're going to be sewing down all 4 sides. So you want to make sure when you sew the top part that you're not sewing it to the bottom of the pocket hole, but you want to sew it to the row above the pocket hole. That way there's still a hole for you to put your hand into. That can sometimes be confusing to people and they're not sure where to sew it, but I'm going to show you here. So you can just grab your needle, and then the final row of the pocket, you're going to be stitching it to that row just above the opening. So when you're working your way across, just make sure that it's going into the back of those stitches along this row here. And then you'll want to make sure that you're not sticking your needle out to the other side, because then you'll be able to see your work. You want to make sure you're just picking up the threads on the inside, and then also make sure that your row is not tugged down or that the pocket hole opening has a huge gap. You want to make sure that it's nice and even and not stretched out in any way as you get started. So I'm just going to insert my needle into the corner stitch here of the pocket panel, and then I'm just going to line it up and join it in to the stitch just above the opening and working it into that very edge stitch there, and then just seaming together. So my tail was too long for this. I went back and cut it a little bit shorter, but you will want to have a tail long enough so that you can do all 4 sides without having to join in any new yarn. So you're just going to work your way across the top like this, and then down the side, and then when you get to the bottom, work your row across, matching up with the bottom of row 1, and then back up the final side back to where you started. So it's also helpful here to use stitch markers, and you can place one in the remaining 3 corners to keep everything in place. And I went back and did that as well. So I do recommend doing that, especially if you're new to sewing or just maybe have a hard time. Sometimes things can get moved around, so that is helpful to have the stitch markers holding everything together. So once you have your pocket joined in on this side, you need to go back and do the same thing on the other side as well. So you can go ahead and sew all 4 sides of both pockets to the inside of your front panel. Next, we're going to add the trim to give the cardigan a nice, clean, finished look. We have our pockets complete and everything is joined together. So we're just going to bring in a new piece of yarn. So you have your cardigan right side out, and we're going to join our new yarn at the bottom of the ribbing on the front panel on the left-hand side, which would be the right side while you're wearing the cardigan. So in that very corner stitch, I'm just going to slip stitch to join and then chain 1, and in that same stitch work a single crochet, and then work a single crochet up the remainder of those 10 stitches in the ribbing, and then you're just going to keep going up the side of the first front panel. So once you work into the ribbing stitches and you get to the ends of the rows here, it's going to be kind of like how we worked into the ends of the rows before. You're not working into an actual stitch, you're just working into the sides of the rows. And so you can put your hook wherever feels most comfortable and looks the nicest to you. And then you'll work approximately 2 single crochet per end of row. So for each row you have, you'll have about 2 single crochet into it. You'll work across the back panel, working 1 single crochet into each of the stitches along the back, and then all the way down to the second front corner to finish off. And then you just fasten off your work and weave in any remaining ends that you have. And that is it for this tutorial. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.